Welcome to Soul Trek. This episode, Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is. I don't know how many times I heard it over the years, how many times I've said it, how many times it's been said to me, put your money where your mouth is. In other words, if you say you value a particular thing, then put your resources into that thing as well. That's putting your money where your mouth is. And in fact, the Bible talks a lot about money, perhaps more than people would expect it to. But when it does so in a sense of, asking that question, what do you value? What's important to you? Where are you making your investments in life? And how is that good and in accordance with God's wishes for us? So the Bible talks a lot about money. We can't escape that fact. And I think it does so for that main reason, to challenge us on where we, on those things that we value. What do we really, really value? In other words, do profits triumph over people or forests or waterways or whatever? Now, you might think it's odd that I'm asking these questions, but I'm doing so because there's something that's kind of been annoying me for the last few months. And it's something that happened early in the pandemic and that we haven't followed through on. Early in the pandemic, when we were shut down, made to stay home and all those sorts of things, we talked a lot about essential workers. And I saw a photograph one time of a highway, like a 12-lane highway that was packed full of cars, that was taken before the pandemic. And then the same road, the same highway, with hardly any cars on it after the pandemic had started, indicating that, well, maybe not all of that travel was essential in the best sense of the word. So, in our lists of essential workers, I don't think anybody listed clergy. I've been joking about that the whole time as well. The reality is that almost everything that people might want a clergy person around for, people are capable of accomplishing on their own. They probably don't need us in an essential sort of way. But we did identify, I think, certain very obvious groups early in the pandemic as essential. Nurses, for example, probably topped most of our lists, but there was also cashiers at grocery stores, for example, or people involved in the transportation industry, people still charged with the idea of getting food and other necessities to people. Plumbers couldn't work from home. Very early in the pandemic, before we really knew what we were dealing with, when we thought COVID was falling from the skies, we had a pipe burst in our house, and we had to have a plumber. And we got one, thankfully. We didn't mask because we didn't know we were supposed to. This was before all of that. But we did our best to social distance from one another. But I was awfully thankful to have a plumber in the house when one was absolutely necessary. I think the sense in those early days that all of these people would be properly compensated. In other words, society would put our money where our mouths are. That they would be compensated not only for the work that they did during a pandemic, but afterwards, that we would continue to value their presence in our lives. We would continue to value the contribution that they make to society. We would continue to value how they enable our society to function as well as it does. Well, today, and this is what's been needling at me for a few months now, I wonder what's happened to our good intentions. Why haven't we followed through on this very basic idea of compensating those folks we know of as being essential to our society? Why not compensating them better? Why not compensating them according to their value when the chips are down? CEOs, politicians, well, frankly, they're well compensated. They get their good holidays. They get to stay at resorts and things like that. But when you need a nurse, you need a nurse. When you need a plumber, you need a plumber. When you need food, you need a grocery store clerk. Let's start putting our money where our mouths are. Let's follow through on this promise we made to essential workers early in the pandemic, that society would be different from here on out. Money is dealt with in the Bible a lot because it is a justice issue. Justice is at the core of what Scripture is all about. We are called to be a people of justice, and that means not just Christians, but all of us should act justly in our lives. We should set up systems that treat one another fairly. We should compensate people according to their value in our society. People that perhaps were not quite so highly valued before the chips were down. People that we need to start compensating correctly now. Nurses, transportation people, grocery store clerks, plumbers, whoever it is, whoever you can identify as being essential to making things work. Those are the people that we need to start really taking care of. That's justice. That's what Scripture calls us to, I think. Thank you.